Uh, Namaskar to all of you. I hope my voice is clear. Uh, I welcome all the viewers today on this special occasion to understand the various aspects of Vaishnavism prevalent in Kashmir in the earlier times. From last 1.5 months, we have been continuously doing a series of lectures related to Kashmir and the strategic importance of the Dharmic traditions of Kashmir. We started the series from the first week of January when we wanted to celebrate the Jayanti of the great Shaivite saint of Kashmir, Swami Ramji Maharaj. Subsequent to that series, we focused on the genocide aspect of Kashmiri Hindus and the strategic importance of the Himalayas for the Indian nation. Various think tanks joined this session, which included retired army officers, people from the art and culture, poets, and of course the Shaivite scholars from various parts of the country and across the world. However, in all these, we were missing that Kashmir had been a melting pot of various ideologies, various schools of thoughts. We all know that Kashmir is a Shiva Bhumi, Shiv and Shakti's land. But very few of people know that Kashmir had also contributed immensely in the Vaishnavism. Uh, in a place near Srinagar, which was known as Praduman Peeth, the Pancharatra Agams were written, which are somewhere around 218 or 20, which today's guest will elaborate more on that. And these school of tradition was patronized by the Kashmiri rulers, which included the great Lalitaditya Muktapida, Avanti Varman, and other rulers. You can see in the temples of Kashmir still lot of veneration is being given to the Vaishnav cult, and iconography of Kashmir had been so famous, particularly in for Bhagwan Vishnu, Mata Lakshmi, and other forms of the Lord Vishnu. The famous Avanti Swami temple at Avantipora is also known as Panchayatan temple, where the central deity itself is Praduman or the Lord Vishnu. On the various wall iconography, you can see the various forms of Lord Vishnu in that temple, though it is in a very dilapidated condition, which was destroyed at various point of time during the invasions. And still the ruins speak about its grandeur and the aspects of Vaishnavism. Uh, in this continued series, we wanted to have a detailed understanding of Kashmir. If we go back to our historical text like Raj Tarangni and Nilmat Puran, there's an elaborated details mentioned about the forms and worship of Lord Vishnu in Kashmir. Nilmat has a lot of festivals dedicated to the Lord Vishnu, especially the Jayanti of Bhagwan Shri Krishna and the various festivals related to the Vaishnavism. Similarly, in Raj Tarangni, I would like to bring to the view uh, of the viewers a quote which is in the third chapter of the Raj Tarangni, where the Pandit Kalhan mentions Chak Chak Chakra Dujay Shadike Shvena Shani Bhushate Til Sanchayo Mati Yatrasti Prithvi Tirth Bahishkrita, which means that there is not a space equivalent to the sesame seed, which is not a tirtha in Kashmir, the land which is adorned by Chakradhar Vishnu. So, which explains that Kashmir is not only the land which are prominently known for the Shiva and Shakti, but also for the Vishnu and its various forms. We also know that Kashmir had contributed in spreading the Shakt cult, and one of the Shakt cult went to the Bengal or Kamrup, where you can see the worship of Kali, Durga, and Kamakhya. And the another branch of the Shakt cult went to Karnataka and Kerala, where the Rajeshwari cult was prevalent, is still prevalent. And similarly in Kashmir, we had a Tripur Sundari cult. And what in all this we have been not able to trace the various aspects of the Vaishnav cult. So today we have a great scholar and who traces their origin to the Kashmir, Dr. Lakshmi Narasimhanji. I welcome Dr. Lakshmi Narasimhanji today on this special occasion. He is the hereditary priest of the famous Chilkur Balaji temple. The Chilkur Balaji temple is in Hyderabad, and thousands of people throng to this temple every Saturday. Dr. Lakshmi, I would like to give a small brief of Dr. Narasimhanji. He has done his PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Belgium. He has studied Yajurveda and Vasishtha Advaita Granth from Sri Villur Nadur Karunachari Swami, who had been awarded by the President of India. Is a venture capitalist and is also a professor to the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He has been writing a lot on the various aspects of Vaishnavism and the travel of Ramanujacharya to Kashmir. So I welcome Shri Dr. Lakshmi Narasimhanji on this platform, and we would be very much understanding the various aspects of the Vaishnavism and the travel of great Shri Ramanujacharya to Kashmir, particularly to Sharda Peeth. Shri Lakshmanji Narasimhanji, my warm welcome to you. Sir, my pranam.
Namaskar, Sunilji. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please tilt the camera towards the downside. थोड़ा सा कैमरा को आप नीचे को कीजिए. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So what I will do is I will start my first introduction via invocation of both Guru Parampara as well as Bhagavan in Kashmir. And then I will introduce you to the subject. Before I do all these things, I am not an expert in any of these, neither in Visishtadvaitam, nor in Pancharatragamam, nor in any of the Kashmir history. All that I learnt is what I learnt from my guru. Several gurus in my life, and most important guru for me, first guru is my father, Professor M.V. Soundararajan. And the next guru to me is my uncle, Sri Dr. Villur Karunakaracharya Swami. So first invocation. Shriman Venkatanatharya Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharyavaryo me sannidhattam sada hridi yasya bhavad bhakta janartihantuh pitruttvamanyeshva vicharyaturnam stambhevatarasthamananyalabhyam Lakshmi nrisimham sharanam prapadye jnananandamayam devam nirmalasphatiकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे शिलायाम् एकस्यां जलनिधिभुवा कश्यपभुवा विलासं सन्तन्वन्ने विनतशिवसम्पूजितपदः जलाधारप्रान्ते सकलजनसर्वेष्ठफलदः कलावस्मिन् दैवं जयति चिलुकूरु वेङ्कटपतिः प्रपद्ये निरवद्यानां निषद्यां गुणसम्पदां शरणं भवभीतानां षठकोपमुनीश्वरम् वेदान्तदेशिकयतीन्द्रकटाक्षलब्ध त्रय्यन्तसारमनवद्य गुणम्बुदाग्र्यं नारायणाख्ययतिदुर्यकृपाभिषिक्तं श्रीरङ्गनाथयतिशेखरमाश्रयामः श्रीवत्सवंशकलशोऽधिकौस्तुभस्य श्रीवासराघवगुरोस्तनयं ततश्च विद्या अवाप्य विबुधोत्तमतां दधानं कुर्वे सदा हृदि गुरुं करुणाकराख्यम् पाञ्चरात्रस्य कृत्स्नस्य वक्ता नारायणस्वयं कमप्याद्यं गुरुं वन्दे कमलागृहमेधिनं प्रवक्ता छन्दसां वक्ता पञ्चरात्रस्य स्वयं नमः सकलकल्याण दायिने चक्रपाणये संसारार्णवमग्नानां समुत्तरणहेतवे हरि ओम प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु आनो दिवो बृहतः पर्वतादा सरस्वती यजता गन्तु यज्ञम् हवन् देवी जुजुषाणो घृताची शग्मान्नो वाचमुषति शृणोतु. नमः सभायै. जैसे कि सुनील जी ने कहे हैं, and I will speak in English as according to his wish. He has given a very good introduction. In fact, he has said that Kashmir is an abode of Vaishnava Parampara. It's actually originated from there. In fact, the whole creation originated from Kashmir. This is what is already said in the Rajatarangini. And it is not said in Rajatarangini alone, it is said in Vedas. You should first, we can relate Kashmir directly from Vedas. I am also belonging to Kashmir origin because my Gotra is Naidhrava Kashyapa Gotra. Kashyapa Maharshi, he is the originator of my Gotra. Now, Kashyapa Maharishi's story everybody knows. Lord Parshuram, he not only conquered the whole India, but he conquered the entire earth 21 times, not once, twice, 21 times. And the whole earth was his, as Bhagavan Vishnu's avatar, Parshuram. And after finishing all his conquests, he gave the entire earth in Dan to Kashyapa Prajapati. And Kashyapa Prajapati is one of the Prajapatis created by Brahma, main Prajapati, I could say. Daksha Prajapati is the chief, but Kashyapa Prajapati comes very, very important Prajapati. Now, Lord Brahma was born to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu created him from his own Nabi, Kamala. Lord Vishnu, after creating Brahma, he entrusted the whole creation to him. Lord Brahma created various items, but he forgot in between. The reason he forgot is one of the demonic Asur Shakti called Kesari. There were multiple instances where he forgot. One of the instances is this. Madhukaitab is another instance. And Kesari made him completely forget all the mantras with his Rakshas Maya. And he was invincible. Kesari, Brahma cried. He prayed to Lord Narayana. Lord Narayana came in the form of Hayagriva, killed Kesari, and taught Brahma back everything. At that time, Brahma asked Brahmaji to Lord Narayana, can you tell me how I should quickly, easily worship you? Because you are unable, I'm unable to see you. Like every one of us, Brahmaji also cannot see Lord Narayana all the time. Only Lord Narayana will appear before him when he desires, not when Brahmaji desires. So that happens. Brahmaji, Lord Narayana taught Pancharatara Agama to Brahmaji. This is one of the 3 Pancharatara Agama teachings. Main, it is called Ratnatrayam. Satvata Samhita, Paushkara Samhita, or Jayakhya Samhita. So from there the lineage starts. Brahma teaches this to Kashyap Maharishi and so on. And from Kashyapa Maharishi, the Agama goes around. So as Sunilji has pointed out, there are more than 200 and plus Pancharatra Agama text itself, which is true. And it has come from many ways. Some of them has come from Mahalakshmi teaching Indra, that is called Lakshmi Tantra. Bhagavan teaching Mahalakshmi, that is called Sri Prashna Samhita. So there are many Pancharatra Agama texts. All of them have confluence. All of them have various practices. So we, in the Kashmir, it is called Kashmira Agama. That is how Saint Yamunacharya, who is the Pracharya of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya's Acharya is Mahapurna, and Mahapurna's Acharya is Yamunacharya. So Ramanuja's Pracharya. He has written a text called Agama Pramanya, which is not available now. But Swami Vedanta Deshika has actually seen the text, read it, based on which he has given his Pancharatra Agama Raksha. In that Granda, he mentions the Pancharatra Agama. How this Pancharatra Agama came, what is the story behind it? Everything is mentioned in Mahabharata Purana. Vedavyas himself mentions, and there is a big sarga on Moksha Dharma, big sarga on Shanti Parva. Several places Mahabharata. You can know how Pancharatra Agama has come. I will not go into those details for the paucity of time. I will come back to my relationship. One is the Kashyapa, the other one is Ramanujacharya himself. My mother is having a direct blood relationship with Ramanujacharya. My uncle who taught me, Villur Karunakaracharya Swami, is the 29th lineage of Lord Ramanujacharya's sister's husband. His name is Nadadur Alwan. From there, 28th lineage is Villur Srinivasa Raghavacharya Swami, to whom my mother was born. So I have a direct blood relationship also with Ramanujacharya. All of our family members, me, my brother, younger brother who is in Chilkur Balaji Temple, Rangarajan, because of whom many fights we were able to win. He is a lawyer, come priest. My father is a professor in commerce, come hereditary trustee, come priest and chairman for Chilkur. He is also a very good scholar in Pancharatra Agama. I learned some of these from him. He only was inspiring me. He said, you should find out the linkage. You should do a research about Ramanuja's journey to Kashmir and write the article in Vak. So that is how I started writing. I don't know how to write to start with, where to start. Then he only introduced me to Raja Tarangini. I read the Raja Tarangini book from Kalhana. The Kashmir land is belonging to, there is no multiple cults. It's all Sanatana Dharma. The Sanatana Dharma is coming from Veda. It is all belonging to no himsa. Veda's main paramo dharma, Veda's paramo dharma is ahimsa. Ahimsa paramo dharma. Sita says to Rama, ahimsa paramo dharma tvattayaiva maya shrutah. Nahimsyat sarva bhutani is a verse coming from Veda. So which means that no harm to anybody, neither physical harm nor mental harm you should do. That has been our cardinal principle in anything that we do. So this no harm the way the Kashmir has emanated is coming from the same Sanatana Dharma. No harm to people. Lord Brahma, and that is the main motto of Sanatana Dharma, which is inculcated in Shankaracharya's philosophy. In fact, there were a lot of sages before Shankaracharya who was having same thought. Vedavyas integrated them into Brahma Sutra, and Shankaracharya wrote a commentary to Brahma Sutra. Similarly, Ramanujacharya wrote a commentary to Brahma Sutra. Madhvacharya also wrote commentary to Brahma Sutra. There were before that also there were many commentaries for Brahma Sutra, but main commentary to Brahma Sutra was Bodhayana Vritti Grantha, which was in the Kashmir. And Ramanujacharya undertook the journey to go to read that text before presenting his view about how should we understand these Vedas. And as a result of that understanding, he said there are two paths for salvation. One path is Bhakti Yoga, which is the Ashtanga Yoga, which everybody knows. The other path, which Ramanujacharya deduced based on all his Purvacharyas anugraha or blessings, it is called Shadanga Yoga, which is Shadanga Prapatti, surrender. Surrender has 6 angas. This surrender was first told, of course, it is told in Vedas. It is called Nyasa Vidya, one of the Brahma Vidyas, 32 Brahma Vidyas, it is one of them. The good thing about this one is, in other 31 Brahma Vidyas, there are, some people cannot practice them. There are classifications who can practice. Finally, only the sannyasi who becomes ultimately completely leaving everything only can become mukta. But the 32nd, which is Nyasa Vidya, it is the breather for all of us. Everybody who surrenders to the feet of Lord, he can be born in any caste, creed, community, or even for that matter, a living creature. Anybody which surrenders before the Lord, then you can directly attain salvation. So that is the second route. One is Bhakti Marga, the other one is Prapatti. This is told in Ahirbudhnya Samhita in the Pancharatra Agama. Various Agamas talk about it, but notably it is Ahirbudhnya Samhita where Paramashiva teaches this to Narada. And that was taught in Kashmir. So Kashmir is a Vaishnava Kshetra. Paramashiva is also a Vaishnava. He only says that when Lord Krishna goes to seek boon from Paramashiva for getting his son for Jambavati, Samba, Paramashiva says this is all drama by Lord Krishna. Actually, you know what? The world, you know this. Kaiti Brahmano Nama Ishoham Tasya Vaisutaha Avam Tavanga Sambhutaha Tasmatvam Keshava Namani. This is quoted by Shankaracharya in his Vishnu Sahasranama Bhashya to explain the name Keshava. The Keshava temple is there in Kashmir in the past. Now it is not there. In those days, it used to be there. Big temple on Keshava. And that Keshava Nama is coming from Lord Paramashiva's deduction. He basically gave this Keshava Nama. He says, Lord, you are known as Keshava because Kaha is Brahma. Kaha means Brahma. Brahma's son, I am Brahma's son, Ishaha. And both of us have been directly bodily linked to you. Therefore, you are named as Keshava. So this is what Paramashiva says. And Paramashiva has Ganga in his head. And Ganga is nothing but in Trivikramavatara, when Lord Brahma in Satyaloka, Ganga, he basically washed the feet of Lord Vishnu, and that feet jal is held by Lord Shiva, and he considers that as a great thing for him to get purified. That is the river Ganga Jal. Every time it has been taken by Saraswati Devi, and that is how Saraswati river, also Saraswati Brahma's wife, both are same, and that river became so powerful and so pious, so important to people. And it is told that the Tirtha Yatra, when you start, and Mahabharata describes that, Tirtha Yatra, when you start, you should start by Pradakshina of Saraswati river, which means you should go around, have a circumambulation of Saraswati. You can't do that Pradakshina today, being an Indian. You have to go to Pakistan and then do the start the Pradakshina, then come back and then come to India. That is how currently the position is. That is unfortunate situation. But this is how, and that is the most important thing. Before you start any Tirtha Yatra, you should do first Saraswati Pradakshina. Then you should go to all Tirtha Yatras, come back and end it in Vitasta. That is the Mahabharat prescription. So today nobody can do any Tirtha Yatra as far as Hindu is concerned, unfortunately. And the Veda says exactly what Sunilji has said about Nilamat Puran and Gangodbhed Puran. Both of these Purans are actually Upapuran. They are Khila Purans of Mahabharat. Vedavyas only has given this. And it is because Mahabharata has become so big that these two Purans have become separate Purans. And they were written during the time of Vedavyas himself. The only thing is, it has become, it was lost and became available later. Nalanda University, when it was burnt, people say 4 lakh books, Talpatra Granth, have been burnt. So it is possible that we lost them there. But some of these Puran are available. Rajatarangini quotes some of them. And one story they were in Gangodbheda Puran, it says how the Saraswati river has come. It is supposed to be in Meru, which is in Shvetadvip Parvat. But this Meru, there is a branch office of Meru, which is there in India. That is why we all say Bharata Varshe, Bharatakande, Meroho Dakshine Parshve, Asmin Vartamane, Vyavaharike. This is our Sankalp. Every day we do this. And this Meru, Dakshin Parshve, we are all there. That Meru is nothing but Kashyapa Meru, which is called Kashmir today. And how this Saraswati came, it Veda says, and I have put that in the invocation. Ano divo brihataf parvatat. Brihataf parvatat. Sayanacharya in his bhashya, in its meaning, he says Meru Parvatat. From Meru Parvata, Saraswati should come to me. This is what is the prarthana that was done by Pulastya Maharshi. And then Saraswati appeared in the Kashmir. Although Saraswati was there as Saraswati Brahma in Kashmir, but for Pulastya Maharshi's penance as a Prajapati, Saraswati, a river appeared. And that is how the river flowing started from there onwards. So I will stop here and see if there are any questions, anything that, Sunilji wants to ask further.
It was nice, Dr. Saab, that you connected that the Pradakshina of the Saraswati was very important ritual, and now that part of it is now in the Pakistan. And then after taking the Pradakshina, one used to go to finally to the Vitista. So Vitista finds its mention in the Mahabharata. So in all this, we wanted to know how this means people are not talking that there was no geographical unity or the political unity of India. But what I see from your description so far, that India had a cultural and religious unity from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So in this context, I wanted to know that who were the great acharyas of Vaishnavism in Kashmir, because as far as I know one which is Utpal Vaishnav. He was somewhere around 9th century. He had written lot of texts on Vaishnav Agams. But I wanted to know more about the Pancharatra Agams, their journey, origination, and how this practice of a Pancharatra Agam depleted in Kashmir and how it went to rest of the India.
Sure. See, that is very difficult to actually draw a lineage because it's very old, thousands of years have elapsed. But I can say one thing from the Purans. Now, first of all, if you look at Veda, Upanishad, every day during taking bath, we recite Aghamarshana Sukta. We have to recite that before we take bath. And during that bath, we have to do Ganga Avahan. And then in that Ganga Avahan, not only Ganga Avahan, we have to do all the Sapta Nadis, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati Avahan. But main is Ganga Avahan, which we do. And in that Avahan, there is a mantra. Imam me Gange Yamune Saraswati Shutudristo Magum Sachatapa Rushniya Asikniya Marudvridhe Vitasthayarji Kiye Srunukya Sushomaya. So, Sushoma is one nadi. Arjikiye is one nadi. Along with that, Vitasthaya Arjikiye, along Arjikiye is the Saraswati river, one of the tributaries of that. You are calling it along with Vitasta and Sushoma to help you. And then Jhelam is also there. Shutudri. Imamme Gange Yamuna Saraswati. Shutudristo Magum Sachatapa Rushniya Asikniya. So many rivers from Kashmir. And we are unable to go and pray there. Now, after this is Vedas. So Vedas is Veda Pramanya is already there for you. From Veda Pramanya, if you go to how Pancharatra Agama emanated, there is a sage called Ekahayana who performed penance. There are actually 5 rishis, Chandilya, Ekahayana. They performed penance and Lord Narayana taught them, each of them, Pancharatra Agama. And all of them took Pancharatra Agama and they taught us how to perform puja. Today, when we perform puja, we provide Argyam to Lord. And in Argyam, there is Mahalakshmi invocation in the Argyam. In the Padyam, there is a Ganga invocation. And in Achamaniyam, there is Saraswati invocation. So you see how interwoven in the Pancharatra Agama is. Now, in the Pancharatra Agama, the whole Agama is meant for providing a feat for surrendering. Because the purpose of anybody's life is to ultimately attain moksha. Let us not forget that. That is the main purpose of people who come here. Because all of us who are here in the samsara, we are all in jail. Because of our previous sins, we are in this world. We are all supposed to be in the Vaikuntha Loka, serving Lord. The way to get there is you can do Ashtanga Bhakti Yoga. That also needs Pancharatra Agama. Or you can do Prapatti, which is surrender. Unless you have a feet, where will you surrender? The feet, you have to surrender at the feet of Lord through your Guru. And that feet is nothing but the Archa Murti in the temples. So as you mentioned, you said Pradyumna temple. So Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. These are 4 Vyuha Murtis that are there in Pancharatra Agama. These 4 Vyuha Murtis. Then we have Vibhava. Paravasudeva, Vyuha, then Vibhava, Then we have Antaryami, which means Lord resides in everybody's heart. But only for yogi's heart, you can actually, the yogi can realize him. It's not easy. Only Maharshis like Shandilya, or Maharshis like Ekahayana, or Maharshis like Pulastya or Kashyapa, who can do penance, can do that. For ordinary people like us, the only way we can attain Lord is by simply surrendering to Him. And after surrender, we should be having following no harm for people. And the greatness of Ramanujacharya, see, Shankaracharya was also Vaishnava. He has simply said, and Lord Shiva is Vaishnava, as I explained to you. Shankaracharya is Vaishnava, because Vaishnava is not something, Vaishnava is a big item. Vishatiti Vishnuhu. The meaning for Vaishnava is that anybody who sees other person's distress and he goes to him and helps him, that person is called Vaishnava. Any person. That's the definition of Vaishnava. Vishatiti Vishnu. Lord is the biggest Vishnu, Lord Narayana, because he is at the highest position. He doesn't have to bother. He is in the Paramananda position. But he cannot tolerate your samsara dukkha. So he keeps incarnating himself. One is as Paravasdeva is in Vaikuntha Loka. He comes down. He has also created himself into 4 Vyuha, Vasudeva, Sankarshna, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then he comes down into Vibhava Avataras. You have 26 plus Vibhava Avataras. Out of that, 10 Dashavataras are famous. Everybody knows. Lord Krishna is one of them. And then after that, there is the Antaryami, which Lord manifests himself, and he is the only one who can do. He is with you. Although you may not realize, but he is with you to help you to realize. The only thing is, he is asking you to say, "You protect me." You have to say that to him. Aprarthitaha na gopayati. If you don't go and pray to him, nobody will rescue you. So he is also like that, but he is waiting for your prayer. But the moment you pray, he will get melted. That is Archa Antaryami. Then you have to help you to pray further, because Antaryami is not visible. Then you need a form, and that is the form that Pancharatra Agamas have created. And he has explained he has given these forms, and you have mentioned those Pradyumna temple, Chakradhar temple, like that, all these temples. And those Agamas, Brahma only gave the Lord Ranganatha, which he was making, daily puja, to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku, first he gave it to Manu, then he gave it to Ikshvaku. And from Ikshvaku, it came to Dasharatha by lineage, Ramachandra Swami. And Ramachandra Swami gave it to Vibhishana. And that is how the whole Vibhishana took the Ranganatha Swami's image and installed in Srirangam. That's the most ancient temple which we can call. So everything is emanating from, and it is interwoven. Pancharatra Agama, Kashmir, Kashyapa Meru, Paulastya, Sage Shandilya, Sage Ekahayana, Sage Vaishampayana. Like that, the lineage goes.
So you mean to say that all these Pancharatra Agams originated from Kashmir, which I have also read somewhere. But we wanted to know the traditions which we now do in south of India. Means now most of the traditional puja of this Pancharatra Agams is done mostly in the southern part of India, not much in Kashmir. I don't know. Very few people may be knowing that they originally originated from Kashmir. So, can you throw some light on the kind of practices which we currently do, and how was Sri Ramanujacharya interested in going to Sharda Peeth? What were the discussions and what were his achievements, or what were his uh, how did he got illuminated after visiting Kashmir?
Yeah, sure. See, Lord Vedavyas, after providing the Brahma Sutra, in fact, he conducted a big sadas of all Maharishis in those days. And each Maharishi had their own views about how to understand the Vedic text. Because for all the Sanatana Dharma, Vedas is the prime, and the Vedic instructions are the prime thing. So, how do we understand these Vedic instructions? And what is the correct understanding? Some people said, Sadeva Somya idamagra asit ekameva advitiyam. There is only one. There is none other than that. This was one of the Audulomi type of Maharishis. They were having this school of thought. Similarly, some said, no, everything is true, everything exists, etc. That is Katyayana Maharshi. So, the school of thought, people made a debate, people understood how it should be understood, and finally gave a final verdict. And that verdict has been recorded as Brahma Sutra. Now, it has been recorded in such a formula manner that it needs really good initiation to understand that verdict. Because Upanishads are not, they are purposefully, all the Vedas and Upanishads, they cannot be easily understood by people. In fact, even sages cannot understand that easily. So that is why Vedavyasa took that initiative, tried to properly define and understand Vedas. And that is what is called Brahma Sutra. Now, to that Brahma Sutra, there was a big Vedavyas taught that Brahma Sutra to his disciple called Bodhayana. Now, Bodhayana, he learnt it, and then he wrote a magnum opus commentary to that Brahma Sutra, because it's very difficult to understand what Vedavyasa has said and what the minutes of the meetings were. And then where the Brahma Sutra is nothing but minutes of the meeting, which was chaired by Vedavyasa. Yeah. Now the whole Bodhayana, he wrote a big text magnum opus called Vritti Grantha. Unfortunately, that was not available to Shankaracharya when he wrote initially. So he was coming from a different school, Buddhist school. He had a lot of education there. And his problem was that people were not taking Sanatana Dharma. They were going into Buddhism, where Vedas have no meaning for them. Shankaracharya wanted to re-establish. And as such, they say, okay, at least you accept one. That is what his philosophy was. Then it also led him to a different situation where, if you accept one, if you say Brahma is Satya and rest is all Mithya, then the basis on which you say Brahma is Satya, which is Vedas, also becomes Mithya, because other than Brahma, nothing exists. That is the Param Satya, right? According to him. So that was a problem. And so Lord Ramanuja had a problem to say, no, this is not how we should understand this Vedas. So let me go and find actually what Bodhayana has written in his Vritti Grantha. Because Shankaracharya quotes in Vritti Grantha, while later it was available to him, but he has already got committed to a certain philosophy, so he could not deviate from there. And other people understood that. Now, Lord Ramanuja, he looked at Bodhayana, Vritti Grantha, along with, and that is the story I was writing in the walk, how he went, what kind of arguments, ordeal he could have had, because there was no recording really all like this. It was only I am collecting it from a circumstantial evidence point of view. So there could be a lot of items that I had to create a dramatic situation there. But it is a fact that he went twice to Kashmir, for sure. He could have gone more than that, and he had got the permission of the king Anantaditya Deva to go into the library of Sharada Pit and look at the Bodhayana Vritti Grantha. And he took that Grantha. In fact, Anantaditya presented that Grantha to Lord Ramanuja actually. But unfortunately, many people who did not like that, they attacked Ramanuja on his way, and they took that Bodhayana Grantha back. But having done that, still Ramanuja had read all the portions of Bodhayana Grantha along with his disciple Kuresha. It is called Srivatsa Chinna Mishra. We all know him as Kuratalwar in South. So he was a great disciple and very ardent, and once he is very great memory power. If he reads it once, he will retain it. It's such a great man, and he retained the whole thing. Because of that, Lord Ramanuja said, "See, Parabrahmam, what Vedavyasa finally deduced is, and according to Vritti Grantha, Parabrahmam is Satya, Jagat is also Satya, and it is all because Parabrahma is Antaryami. And the concept of Antaryami is already existing in Pancharatra Agamas. So he got the clear influence from there. In the Upanishads also, Yajnavalkya has mentioned, it is called Antaryami Brahmana. And all that Shankaracharya in the past said, no, you should not look at it this way because it is not fitting into the philosophy of Shankara. So unfortunately, although people have then realized that Lord Ramanuja may be right, but because there was Guru Parampara lineage and people had to adhere to that Guru Parampara. There were some gurus in those days who actually realized that that may not be the right path. And then they took to Lord Ramanuja's feet. For example, Lord Ramanuja's history is a very unique one. His guru was Yadava Prakasha, who was a ardent saint and then ardent devotee of Shankara philosophy. He himself had his own philosophy, little bit deviated from Shankara. And then what Yadav Prakasha, then he taught Ramanuja initially the basics. But once Ramanuja was trying to ask questions about how to interpret Vedas, that is where the problems came. And then, seeing the intellect of Ramanuja, he plotted to kill him in the Manikarnika. So there is one place in Ganga where Manikarnika, if you immerse a person there, you will not get the Brahmahatya dosha. But you will that person will also be killed. He will also go to moksha and you will also will have no papa. So he plotted like that. But unfortunately, that was for him. Unfortunately for us, that plot was unearthed and Ramanuja came back in midway. Yeah, and that whole thing, he again became his disciple. After Yamunacharya returned to Kanchi, Ramanuja again joined the school of Yamunacharya, Yadava Prakasha. Then he still continued. But after that, there was a big debate and he couldn't stand Ramanuja's basic this thing. So he became a big, initially he was, both were not talking. And then Ramanujacharya went to Mahapurna and he learned, who was the disciple of Yamunacharya. And he learned the whole Vishishtadvaita from Mahapurna. Then
So
he became...
Acharya, I wanted to then now understand, because you have given elaborated the journey of Sri Ramanujacharya to Kashmir to Sharda Peeth. So I know that you in the monthly magazine of your temple, Chilkur Balaji, which is very famous magazine, Vak, you keep on publishing. And I have read few of your articles where you have mentioned many times the Vaishnavite temples of Kashmir. So we in Kashmir, we know that after so many years of turmoil in Kashmir, not recent, but even in the past, many of the temples have been totally destroyed, or we don't have any traces of them. But you have done a pioneering work on historically putting those name of the temples in the WAC. So can you give us a brief details of those temples? For like we had a worship of Narsimha avatar of Kashmir, in Kashmir. We had a worship of Vara avatar in Kashmir. Even Baramulla, one of the districts in Kashmir, is basically Varamul, which is basically one of the names of Lord Vishnu. Even Anantnag is one of the names of Lord Vishnu. So I request you, if you can give us a brief synopsis of those temples which you have in your in the Puranas, and on which you have written a lot.
Yes. So even the Vedagiri, which is the Saraswati Peeth, Sharada Peeth, where it is there, that is called actually Vedagiri. Uh, so there are several such things. There is this whole thing was originally named as Parihasapura, and around Parihasapura there were a lot of temples. Keshava temple. It is said in Rajatarangini, there was a big gold statue of Lord Keshava, Vigraha. Big gold, 80 kilo gold, according to him.
Yes, yes, you are
Large gold.
completely, yes, completely true, because Rajtarani does mention about that. Parihaspura was made by Lalita Aditya, and he had installed a great statue of Bhagavan Vishnu, a Keshava, a gold plated. So you have absolutely
Solid gold Vigraha, solid silver Vigrahas, and not only there, everywhere there is Chakradhar temple that is close to your entry point to Kashmir. It used to be there. It used to be like a big fort, according to Rajatarangini's description. So if you see that temple description, it looks like, I can relate to the temples in South India, where even for that matter, Srirangam, where you have the 7 prakaras for Lord Ranganatha. They could have got inspired from those temples because those temples were existing in those days from there. You never know how these things came because it's all part of the Agama prescriptions. According to Agama prescription, Lord, the Vaikuntha Loka design needs to come in the temples because after the Dvajastamba up to the deity, everything is Vaikuntha Loka experience. So there, Lord Ramanuja said, inside the Dvajastamba, everybody can sit and have take prasadam together. It can be Brahman, it can be Kshatriya, it can be Vaishya, it can be Shudra. Everybody can sit in one goshti and have the prasadam together. That is so great about Pancharatra Agama temples. And Pancharatra Agama is the greatest integrator of all because the ill feelings of all the what you call disrespect aspects is eliminated in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. The Vaishnava Sampradaya says that you should look at the others, you should look at their distress and you should go and help them. That is why Narasimha Mehta, knowing this Vaishnava Sampradaya, he composed this poem, Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye Je Peed Paraye Janire. So now coming back to your question, this Sampradaya, which was Lord Ramanuja discovered it after his visit to Kashmir twice. First time he went to get the Bodhayana Vritti Grantha. He wrote Sri Bhashyam, that is basically the commentary to Brahma Sutra. He again went to get the approval of Lord Hayagriva, who was Hayagriva was in the Saraswati Peeth. Hayagriva was the presiding deity of Saraswati Peeth, where Saraswati was worshipping Hayagriva along with Lord Brahma. And both Saraswati and Brahma were there as part in the form of rabbit in the Shashadvayam. Now, there Saraswati used to speak, and Saraswati used to, in those days, the basic thing goes that Lord, for Shankaracharya, Saraswati gave the Saraswati acknowledged his knowledge. But the Ramanujacharya's Bhashya, Saraswati came in and she wrote in the title. It was only Brahma Sutra Bhashyam, according to Ramanuja has given. Like Shankara gave Brahma Sutra Bhashya, where Ramanujacharya also gave the title Brahma Sutra Bhashya. But in the night, it was told, because normally the people will leave the granthas. That's how the Saraswati Pita, how the prakriya is. Saraswati Pita in the feet of Lord Goddess Saraswati, they will leave all the granthas, and Goddess Saraswati reads them in the night, provides corrections and comments to this grantha. By early morning, when you come and pick up, you can find her comments. And for Ramanuja, first of all, she gave him a welcome, actually, because Saraswati was on tour, Utsava tour, and Ramanuja came, and Saraswati was coming opposite to him. That is number one. Number two, when he gave his grantha to Saraswati for comments, next day she changed only one thing. She changed the heading. She said this should be named as Brahma Sutra Sri Bhashya. So that is how we call Ramanuja's Bhashya as Sri Bhashya, because this is how this is the radiant actual Bhashya of the whole Veda Vyasa's Brahma Sutra, according to her. And what she did, she also ordained Ramanuja. She gave one silver Hayagriva. In those days, for those Vidwans who are scholars who have been regarded by Saraswati, very great scholars, she would present an idol of Lord Hayagriva to them. And this was very rare. I know in the history, very few people actually have been known to get that, and we don't know who. And only sages got it from her in the past.
Yeah,
That,
I think you're correct in that, because Adi Shankaracharya, when he traveled to Sharda Peeth, the southern door of the Sharda Peeth was not opened till Adi Shankara went there. Once he had an argument, discussion or a debate there, the fourth southern door was opened, where he could defeat the people of Nyayika, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa,
yes,
and Yoga. And ultimately, when they all bowed before before Adi Shankara, and acknowledged his supremacy over all these streams of thought, then only the fourth door, the southern door, was opened. So Saraswati, Mata Sharda gave a darshan to Adi Shankara and blessed him for his future endeavors. I think that is how the importance of Sharda Peeth was more, because not only Adi Shankara came, Sri Ramanuja came, Madhvacharya came, even Madhuraja came all the way from south, and this is how the spiritual and religious connect was there at that time.
religious
So
connect was there. And when Sekandar Butshi Khan actually invaded Saraswati Peeth, the Sharada Peeth, original Sharada Peeth, before that, it was shifted to South India. And they set up a Peeth called Dakshinamnaya Peeth, which is in Sringeri now, which is the so you can see the Sharda Devi Pratima from Saraswati Peeth. It is said that it has come to Sringeri.
yes,
That is called
yeah,
Dakshinamnaya Peeth.
so
Okay.
that is what is mentioned in the Shankar Digvijay also, that
Correct.
Mother Sharda followed Adi Shankara to the Sringeri, and even the Vigraha of Devi at Sringeri still adorns that Kashmiri style tatanka, what we call the woman wear as a dejuru, that the married woman wear a dejuru called like a Mangal Sutra, which traditionally is worn by the Kashmiri lady. So Vigraha of Devi at Sringeri still adorns that tatanka over there. So
Absolutely. So that is the whole thing behind. So Saraswati gave her own Pratima to Shankara, but Saraswati presented the Pratima of Lord Hayagriva to Ramanuja. And that Pratima today, you all will be very, very pleased to know it is still protected. that Pratima came to from Ramanuja. It came to via his Sishyas to Appullar. From Appullar, it came to Swami Deshikan. Swami Vedanta Deshika also went to Saraswati Peeth, by the way. Along his Swami Vedanta Deshika's Pracharya, who's basically Nadadur Ammal or Varada Vishnu, he also went to Saraswati Peeth and he won various scholars. In those days, Saraswati Peeth used to be a biggest place where you have to show your might on Vidvat and they have to win there in front of Saraswati. So Appullar gave the idol of Lord Hayagriva to Swami Vedanta Deshika. And that idol, Swami Vedanta Deshika, passed on to his disciple who took sannyas even while he was disciple of Swami Deshika. And that disciple is nothing but Brahmatantra Parakal Swami, who set up the Parakal Mutt, who is now the Rajaguru of Mysore Maharaja in the south. So this silver idol is now the presiding deity of the Mysore Parakal Mutt. So you can see how interwoven Kashmir is with our Sampradaya, and Saraswati Peeth is. So we should have a Saraswati Peeth corridor, and we should basically have this Ramanujacharya's journey. Yes, correct.
A few years back, while visiting Tirupati and around that Saptagiri hills, I found one temple where they said that Adi Shankaracharya has written Shivananda Lahari at this particular place while he was coming from Sharda Peeth. And here you can see Adi Shankara and Devi Sharda following him. That is how the lore in the Digvijay, Shankar Digvijay is mentioned, that the Devi followed Adi Shankara. And at that particular place, Shivananda Lahari was written, whereas in Kashmir, he wrote Saundari Lahari. Adi Shankaracharya wrote Saundari Lahari in Kashmir itself.
Yes. And in fact, Adi Shankaracharya wrote many things. Adi Shankaracharya wrote what we call as Vishnupadadi Keshantastav, where he, like Tirupan Alvar, who my brother enacted in this Munivahana Seva, exactly like that. Lord Shankara came to Srirangam. He had the darshan of Lord Lord Ranganatha, and from feet to Kirita, he has given the stotra. And there he says that there is a Lord Narayana's Urdhvapundra is there in his forehead. No, Lord Shankara says that Urdhvapundra should be all over in my body, protecting me. So this is how it is a very big testimony to say that Lord Shankara, all were Vaishnavas. There is no, all are Sanatana Dharmis, all are Vaishnavas. And Vaishnava Siddhant is our main motto. And our main motto is no disrespect to people, no harm to people. That is what Dharmaraj has demonstrated. That's why he is the biggest emperor the world has ever seen. He is the only person whom you can quote to say who has done justice to his mother, not his direct mother, but his next mother, when she was not existing in this world. He said, let Nakula be alive in the Yaksha Prashna. That is the biggest dharmic thing that one can do, to remove the pain of the person who is not existing.
So, Acharya ji, just because you have given a lot of details about Sri Ramanujacharya and about his journey to Kashmir. So, I just wanted to know, even now at the Chilkur temple, where thousands of devotees throng every day, because I have been a witness whenever I go to Hyderabad, I have visited myself the temple. So are the still rituals related to Sharda Peeth continued, or the Stotra continued, or how do you try to awaken the people about the importance of the Sharda Peeth, or about the connection of Vaishnava Agams with Kashmir?
So our worship is all about Pancharatra Agama. So all the Pancharatra Agama worship is directly connected from Sharda Pit only, because it has come from there. Brahma, Brahma and Saraswati, if they were not there in Kashmir, we would not have got the Pancharatra Agama. If they only did penance to Lord Narayana, from there they learnt. And that Pancharatra Agama we are practicing. And that is, we are practicing Jayakya Samhita. And in fact, the Jayakya Samhita is exactly that Samhita. Many places it is practiced. In Kanchipuram, where Lord Brahma was ordained to do 100 Ashwamedha Yagas by Lord Vishnu to cleanse his sin. Because of sin only, he is not able to do certain things. So Brahma was in trouble. He says, how can I conduct 100 Ashwamedha Yagas? Conducting one itself is not easy. 100 Ashwamedha Yagas, and that too in short time. Then Lord Narayana gave him the way. He says, you go to Kanchipuram, where is Satyavrata Kshetra, and do this, where one Ashwamedha, anything you do in Kanchipuram will be multiplied by 100. So there he went and performed Ashwamedha Yaga. 100 that is one Ashwamedha Yaga equal to 100. And there Saraswati, who was there in Saraswati Pit, she came as Vegavati in Kanchi. So that is the Jayakya Samhita he created for because Lord appeared to him there, and Vardaraja Swami, exactly the same Vardaraja who appeared to Swayambhu Manu in Kashmir, exactly same Vardaraja appeared in front of Brahma in Kanchi, and he is now stationed there. If you look at the temple of Kanchi, you can see the grandeur in which those temples should have been there even in Kashmir. It should have been exactly, in fact, even better than this.
So, Acharya ji, you have put a very pertinent question. In fact, I say you have enlightened us, because what you said, that the temples in the southern India, which now exist, are a replication of what the temple would have been in Kashmir. So now in Kashmir, we don't have any traces of those temples. So what is also important to understand from you, that all the temple architecture or the aesthetics of the temples which now we have in the great temple which we have in south are basically a replica of the temples which would have been earlier in Kashmir. But
Absolutely,
unfortunately,
because all these temples follow the same Pancharatra Agama. Some temples follow Vaikhanasa Agama, but the Agamas, whatever Pancharatra Agama that Kashmir temples have been following, these temples also follow. So the temple worship, structure, architecture, everything has to be same.
that is a very enlightening point, because we now have only few existing ruins. For example, as I said, Avanti Swami temple is one of them. Shiva Swami temple is also there, which was made by Samrat Avanti Varman, or the Sun temple made by Lalita Ditya Mukta Pida, which is also following the more or less the architectural pattern of Pancharatra Agams. So
Yes.
very few out there, and it's very important that we trace back or do some kind of a reverse understanding or reverse historical. We make some kind of a reverse historical account, so that we at least document some of the temples. I know you have been doing a lot of detailing in that. So can you give us something more about any other temples which we have missed, or which that these things were in Kashmir earlier, like temples or the scholars or the other shastras related to Vaishnava Agams?
Yes, so there is a temple for Balrama in close to Kashmir, which was built by Queen Didda's father. He came from actually Lohar Kota or Lahore, we can call that, because the Lahore is nothing but Lavapur, Lavur.
Now, Lohar was a dynasty in Kashmir. There were three important dynasties. One was the Karkot dynasty, from which Lalita Ditya came. Then it was Utpal dynasty, from where Avanti Varman came. And then there was the Lahore dynasty, from which Didda was the ruler.
all these people were Suryavamshis.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Suryavamshi is not only these people, they have perpetuated everywhere. For example, from Lord Dasharatha, after Lord Dasharatha, after Lord Rama, Lava and Kusha, the Suryavamshis spread all over the country. Dharmavarma was ruling in Chola dynasty long ago, and his daughter, Dharmavarma's daughter, married Lord Ranganatha, and she is in Urayur. There's a temple. Same thing you can see. Suryavarma built the biggest Vishnu temple in the whole of world, which is in Cambodia. Now that is called Champanagar in those days. Champa. Same, and Lalitaditya conquered that actually. Lalitaditya conquered that Champanagar also. It was a part of his dynasty, part of his kingdom, empire. Lalitaditya conquered all along the Himalayas, and even for that matter, some of the Uttar Bharat. And he went up to Thailand, up to Cambodia, and stopped there. So that was his big conquest. Lalitaditya was from the Karkotaka dynasty. Karkotaka was Naga, actually. Then you have Lohar dynasty. Lohar dynasty, people say that it is coming from Lava. Lavar. It's called Lohar. It has termed as Lohar. So same thing, Lavapura has become Lahore. That's what some people have been saying. See, I am also not an expert on this, from where it is coming.
No, Acharya ji, you are very correct. Lahore was basically Laupur, which was the kingdom which was managed by the son of Bhagwan Ram, Lav himself. That is from Lav, it became Laupur, and now it became Lahore.
And one of the descendants of Lalitaditya was also named Lava, and that is mentioned in the Rajatarangini. There is a king called Lava. Of course, Rajatarangini says that he was a powerful king, but not very, what we call, religious, according to Rajatarangini, Kalhana. We don't know that many of these kings, he writes that some of them were not religious. I don't know what it means. Okay. It's possible. I'm not. There's no way you can go and dig into that one, because there are three other texts written by Brahmagupta and other people who have written also history about Kashmir. But according to the historians, including Stein, they say that Rajatarangini history is impeccable because a lot of things he has mentioned very well in terms of time, in terms of proper recording, with all evidence. So that is why my father told me, you look at Rajatarangini. And that's how we, in fact, one of our Ahobilamat GR, 42nd GR, today we have 46th Pontiff. 42nd GR also mentioned about Rajatarangini. He said we should do some good research in Rajatarangini to find out what was the Vaishnava philosophy there. Actually, Rajatarangini writes very little about Vaishnava philosophy, etc. But he writes very elaborately about the history of Kashmir, from Mahabharat, from how Gonanda was killed by Balrama, and how Krishna, was helped one of the Kashmir queens who was pregnant, who was actually Gonanda's grandson's wife.
Yashovati. Her name was
Yashovati.
You may be knowing that today that Gupkar Road is quite famous. There is a recently few political parties made a Gupkar declaration also. So basically that Gupkar Road is actually basically a deformed name of Gopadiri. So the mountain near that Gupkar Road was known as Gopadiri, and from Gopadiri that road got named as a Gupkar. So that's how it is. So still the traces of pre-Mahabharata or pre-historic times still exists. So that continuity in some form is there.
Very nice to know that. I also don't know about, because I'm sitting in Bangalore and Chilkur, and imagining about how Sharda Pit would be from the journeys of Stein and other people, and even Ramanujacharya has not given any description about how his journey was. Somebody gave a description about Ramanujacharya's journey, but very, very, very small details. All that we can deduce from that is he should have gone to Kashmir twice. That is very clear. And he has gone for this purpose, and he faced these issues, and it was so those were all the cases. Now, what was the year he would have gone? Why did Yamunacharya did not go? Because Yamunacharya asked him to go to Bodhaya, go to first, find out from Brahma Sutra, Brahda and Vritti Grantha, and then write Sri Bhashyam. Otherwise, Yamunacharya was a great scholar. He could have written the Sri Bhashyam himself. But he did not write Sri Bhashyam himself. He ordained Ramanujacharya to do. The reason was all these invasions in those days. The Ghazni invasion was significant. And of course, after Ghaznis were routed by our three trio, which is Sangram Singh, Raja Bhoj, in the leadership of Raja Bhoj, and Trilochan Pal, then the whole North India became more free from other invasions for 150 years. And at that point of time, Ramanuja went to, and Anantaditya was a very great emperor. He, in fact, expanded up to Champa. And that's what Rajatarangni writes. Anantaditya, the very powerful king.
You mean Lalitaditya or Anantaditya?
Anantaditya during 1040, after Sangram Singh.
Okay, so it is very important point to know that the Kashmiri rulers expanded to that far. Means that when you say Champa means Cambodia. So very few people know about these in detail, because we only know that it was only a landlocked country, Kashmir, and most of the time we only see the references that Lalitaditya expanded his kingdom up to Gandhar in the on the other side, and up to Bengal. And in the south they say up to Mysore, and in Mysore there is one hotel also called Lalit. And somebody told me that the name of that hotel is only because Lalitaditya's army approached to that particular place, and they have the folklore memory of the people is that the Lalitaditya came from Kashmir up to this point. So in all, Swami Acharya ji, it was really interesting to know that Kashmir and the rest of the India in historical context was not only historically we were connected, culturally, spiritually, religiously, and in all forms of literature, where people from rest of the other parts of the country used to come to Kashmir, and from Kashmir the Sharda Peeth was there, and the scholars were there. They used to guide people, and all these Pancharatra Agams emanated from Kashmir, were written in the Kashmir, and they are still preserved in its original form in the in South India, and more so in the Chilkur Balaji temple, which is so famous all over India. And I thank you. I think that if you want to, do you want to say anything, something specific more, Acharya ji, so that we could connect, or there's anything amiss you would like to share with us?
I want to share one very small thing, which is very important though. The sage Pulastya is very, very important. Sage Pulastya, in fact, he gave his discourse to Dalbhya. So Dalbhya Maharshi was asked a question to Sage Pulastya, who belongs to Kashmir. He asked the question, why is this that people are suffering from illness? And Sage Pulastya says, Vratopavasair Yair Vishnu Nanya Janmani Toshitaha Tenara Munishardula Visharogadi Bhaginaha. So he says that people who do not do the Vishnu Aradhana, those are the people who might not have done in their previous Janmas. and who are not doing in current Janma. Those are the people who will be affected by the roga or all the diseases. And the way to eliminate them is to perform puja to Lord Vishnu, and he has prescribed certain puja called Apamarjana Stotra. And on that Ahirbudnya Samhita, which is coming from Kashmir again, that has clearly said how to perform the Sudarshana Chakra Puja for eliminating the diseases. And today we have been following that in Chilkur. We have been following that in other temples in South India. And I can tell you, whatever we can say, world, you can see Corona, how much Corona has infiltrated into India compared to other parts of the world. You can yourself see. Not so many people have been affected. We were really fearing, you know, that maybe Lord Vishnu is not happy. So let us perform this, and that's what we were doing. And of course, just because we do does not mean that we will not be, suffering. Uh, when we do, Lord Vishnu should be pleased. So it is the pleasure of the deity that is important, and the deity's rights are very important in this country. Unfortunately, in this country, deities do not have right. Even in our country today, Sabarimala judgment, they have said very clearly, deities do not have right. That is the Supreme Court contention. But after that, for when we thank Supreme Court again to kind of indirectly review that position by saying in Ayodhya judgment and also in the judgment of Padmanabha Swami in Thiruvananthapuram, that the deities have right. So they have restored 21 gun salute for Lord Padmanabha, and I was very pleased to hear that. And after that 21 gun salute was not there in the past, when Indira Gandhi took it out, now it has been restored. So I am very happy to hear that, and I would like to continue that to say that let us all struggle for getting the deity's rights, because Pancharatra Agama is the central piece for all our Sanatana Dharma, which is directly linked in Kashmir. And we need to strive to get the deity's rights for all, because many kings have built temples, and we don't have any business to neither alter them, modify them, or do anything which is not acceptable in the Pancharatra Agamas. We have to protect them and pass it on as a tradition to the next generation, because that generation will have to then worship and go to salvation. And just because you worship, it is not the right to worship. Right to worship everybody has. It is the right to provide phala by the deity to the devotee that is very important. So we need to basically ensure that, I mean, deities are above us, but it is the bhakti that is important. So as we strive towards that bhakti, towards that devotion to the deity, and let we give the deity their due rights and respect them, to say whatever is your temple, it is exactly you. Your ornaments are you. Your murti is you, and everything is you. Everything is personification of Lord Vishnu. Then there will be much more peace in this country. This will be my last concluding word, I would say, from in this particular interview. I would also say that I will worship to the Lord to say, it's a great debate. It's a great questioning that you have done, and I am not an expert in this. Again, I'm still doing research. So any information that anybody who are Kashmiris who know more, they are welcome to provide their inputs to me, and I would like to understand more how Vaishnavs temples have flourished in Kashmir further. Of course, Rajataragni is the only source I'm basing on. There may be other sources. which you may all be knowing. It's all we are trying to gather pieces, bits and pieces, because it's true. So with that, I will say, Yad apsute saraswati goshvashveshu yanmadhu tena meva jinivati mukhamandi saraswati kavitarkika simhaya kalyana gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha.
Acharya ji, I would have not imagined that you gave us minds and tons of information regarding the worship of Shri Balaji, Venkateshwar Balaji, the journey of Shri Ramanujacharya to Valley, to the Sharda Peeth, and the connection of Sharda Peeth with the rest of the India, and more so with the Vaishnava Sampradaya, uh, and uh, and how still you continue to worship the Sharda Peeth and the Vigraha in the various forms at the Chilkur Balaji and other temples in the southern part of India. I'm sure the kind of rituals, practice, and prarthana and tapasya which you all are doing will eventually get us back our holy land in Sharda very soon. And I pray that Ma Bhagavati comes back with us. And if any kind of a path which we have done to annoy her, may the Divine Mother forgive us. May the Lord Venkateshwara bless this country, bless every part of this country, and bless the humanity in totality. May the exile of Kashmiri Hindus, which we are facing from last 30 years, and end soon. May Lord Venkateshwara be kind enough to help Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus go back to their land, to their original land, Kashmir, and may we again go to the holy place of Mata Sharda, which is now occupied by the evil forces across the border. With this, I thank you again, Acharya ji, for coming.
We will pray for that, Sunil ji. I will also add one more thing as a prayer into that whole thing, that we should also free up all the encroached lands of all the temples and properties within the country even, and restore back our deity rights. So
Sure.
with and have an integrated Saraswati corridor, so that we can go to Sharada Peeth unabated, and people can have worship there. Build a temple there actually for Sharada Devi and for Lord Hayagriva, Lord Brahma, all of that, Lord Shiva, and then we come back here to our temples, and we maintain all the temples as a corridor. This will be a big vision of my father. So with that, I really thank you for this opportunity, Sunil ji.
Thank you, Acharya ji. That it was really on behalf of the viewers, and more so on behalf of the Kashmiri Hindu community. Please accept my thanks for coming on this program and giving us a precious time, illuminating us with the various facets of the Agam Shastra related to Pancharatra. And again, I thank you a lot. And we will continue this session sometime soon, maybe next month or so on, and discuss about the various facets of the Vaishnavism, and illuminate us, keep on illuminating us. And please pray for whole Kashmiri Hindu community at the feet of Lord Venkateshwara, so that our exile ends soon. Thank you once again. Thanks a lot to you, and my pranam.
Sure. Thank you.